Faz will be an amount of time. I want to get this sorted out first. And I mean, I've still got 7.5 hours of streaming to go. So probably hour and a half to 2.5 hours. And then I'll be Faz ready. I do want my streams to be mostly game dev because I want to treat it like an 8-hour workday of dev, and then the last 4 hours of the stream is just like relaxing, playing a game and whatnot. Oh. Left hand's getting a little bit cramped. Stretch it out a bit. So I woke up this morning and my right knuckles, like knuckles on my right hand, were very, very sore. Yeah, they I don't know why, but when I had them detached from, like when I became a floating head, and I asked them to leave the hands so that I could like still pick stuff up and whatnot. They were like, yeah, like we'll still keep the hands around. You'll still feel everything in the hands. And it's like, but why? No, I don't sleepwalk. And I don't have anything around me in my bed that I can punch. I think it was just I think it's the start of chilblains. So I think my fingers are starting to swell a little bit, and they're gonna get to a point where they're just very annoying. Yeah, they gave me the Haunter treatment. I did just ask for the ghastly treatment, but I mean, punching pillows shouldn't hurt your hands. If I was punching my pillows last night and I hurt my hands, I may have a problem with my bones. I need more calcium. Yeah, so we're gonna fix Zed first. Let's get Zed fixed. So Zed's up there. So let's go Zed, walk away from the pillar. So he's walking backwards, and he's walking forwards. Okay, so I'm going to print global rotation degrees. Okay, Zed walking towards the pillar. Okay, so he's walking towards me. He's walking backwards. That's not a... Oh. I see. Its rotation isn't being set to exactly 0. So it's always falling back to that. that's my problem. So how am I doing that for the player? So the player, I'm doing it based on mouse position. And then based on input values. So like pressing forward on the keyboard, that's what sets it in here. And then obviously if we're not in perspective mode, I change things around based on the direction I'm facing. But if this guy is not... So I guess I could always do if it's approximately 0 or something like that. Or like round it up or something. Because I have a feeling if I go into the X, that the X is also not going to be exactly the correct rotation. No, I'm heading away from the player. Or from the enemy. What am I talking about? So it's backwards there, and it's forwards there. So yeah, the values aren't exactly... I think what I need to do is figure out this sort of thing. Because it should be getting it set to... I'm going to do this. Because the rotation should be getting set to exact values. But obviously there's going to be some precision loss. But I wonder if now that I'm not doing integer, I'm just doing floats. Backwards, forwards. Yeah, let's go X again. So that's forwards. That's backwards. It's 90 degrees exactly. So the Y is 90 degrees exactly and negative 90 degrees exactly. I think that should be a positive. No, negative. So it's negatives there, positives there. So let's go x-axis again. Want to head away from the pillar. That's backwards. And that's backwards. Okay, so let's leave both of them as negatives. Change those two to positives. Okay, there you are again. So that's going to be the x-axis. Forward. Forward! Yes! Hell yeah! That's what we want. I'm going to move all the way out of his field of detection. Well, I didn't want to stop, but my mistake. So now let's do Z. See if Z is flipped. So that's backwards, and that's forwards. Because it's not exactly 180. Or exactly 0. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to law that. And I might do the same for the other one, because it's just losing a bit of precision. So that's backwards, and that's backwards, which means I need to change these two. Ooh, that's funky. Okay, Z again. We're almost done. Almost got it. Walking forwards. Walking backwards for some reason. Now I'm very confused. Let's undo that. Setting the ortho axis there. We're getting the absolute value of the rotation degrees in Y. Rounding it to the nearest integer, dividing it by 180. In here, that'll do it. So we're rounding it to the nearest integer. Set the global rotation degrees Y to 0. With that, just so everything's in line for both player and enemy. Not a lot. I've got part of it figured out for the x-axis. So if I go into the x-axis and we go towards the enemy, so they play the forward walking animation regardless of which side of them I'm on. So that's a step in the right direction. Then it's a step in the left direction. And then this way, if we go into the Z still has a bit of a problem. So if I go down this way, it's walking backwards there. It's It's walking backwards there. But if I go down here, I invert these two. Well, actually, I won't even invert those two. What I'll do is I'll invert this one, so that way these two are doing the same thing. There you are. So we go to the Z-axis again. Head towards the enemy. Still walking backwards. This one's walking forwards. And that's because this rotation here is not exactly 0. I wonder if there's a... doing is equal approx. Same thing here. Doing is equal approx. So Z facing away. Let's go down this way. It's walking backwards. It's walking forwards. See what that gives me. Okay, if I'm going onto the Z-axis, I'm going to have to head away. Okay, so that's forward, and that's backwards still. So it's saying false, it's not approximately. I don't know why the... I don't know why the value is so off. I think it's this look at. So if not is perspective, so it'll only do that look at in perspective mode. Otherwise, I'm controlling what the rotation is manually in this mode. Forward. Forward. Now it's backwards. What? Forwards. Forwards. Backwards. Very strange, isn't it? Yes. It's all there is that me that exists. I'm a floating head. I also made me smaller down in this area here, because like I felt I was too large before. Like, I think before I was very huge. No. No, that would require me to have a body. As I said, I am just a head with some hands. They are connected via Wi-Fi to my brain. That's how I control them. Pretty much. Raymond, Haunter. I think there's another one. Actually. So you see how Gur's legs don't attach to his body? It's a similar thing I've got going on with my hands. Yeah. There's also Haunter. Raymond, as you said. But he's got a body and feet, so yeah. That's his problem, though. Has there not been a Rayman game for a while? Like, surely there has been. Oh, it's by Ubisoft though. That's half your problem. A different company needs to make it. Rayman Legends was last released on Stadia. Mario crossover, Mario and Rabbids Kingdom. That one. Mario and Rabbids Spark of Hope. 2022. Ah, for the Switch. Yes. Yep. 2023. Did it not have, like, does Ubisoft not release games in Asia? So I'm noticing they don't have release dates for Asia. They have North America, Europe, and Australia. They've got the Australian release date. But there's never an Asia release date. Or is it just released by a different company? Like published by a different company than Ubisoft? Oh well. I guess we'll never know. I wonder, can I set... rotate Y? Because that'll... rotate Y will rotate based on the angle I give it. Because I'm doing the same thing up here. So I'm wondering if I do something. Like down here, I'm looking at the next path position. I'm wondering if that's causing the enemy to rotate a little bit, rather than just being a straight line that they walk on. Because like that is the strip that they have to walk on. But if I customize that and make it any smaller, where are we? Yeah, if I make the mesh any smaller than 1.4, then okay, so that did do something. What if I go 1.2? Because it's based on both. If I just go mesh instances, it doesn't generate anything because the mesh instance is too small now. No, give me 2 seconds. My nose has been bugging me for a little bit. It's probably one thing no one tells you about having a mustache is occasionally you'll have a rogue hair that like sticks up and starts poking you in the nose. Annoying as all hell. I wonder if there's a way I can alter this. On the bottom lip. And I say I have the same thing, but it's like the side of the mustache when I'm eating. I've never had any issues with the beard. It's always been the mustache. If I could have this as like 1 meter. If I could have it like that. And still have the mesh instance. None of that should matter though. Like, it should be fine that this is 1.4, and this is 1.4, and that the nav mesh is that big. That should be perfectly fine. The reason why that should be perfectly fine is because the enemy we lock the x-axis, so it shouldn't be able to move off the z-axis that we set it to. It's like we set its global position on the x-axis to the player's global position on the x-axis. Then we lock that x-axis. Maybe I need to rotate them first and then do that. So that way when they're moving along the z-axis, they're not going to move off the... They're not going to move away from that. They'll be staying in line with the player. So their rotation should never change. What did I do? Okay, so x-axis. So forward, forward. So that's all fine for the x-axis. But when we go to the z-axis, everything freaks out. I guarantee you it's the smallest thing that's causing this problem. Okay, so now that that's done, I don't care about the Y rotation. Negative 179.99. Like, look at that. It's so weird that the rotation's changing. And I don't want to lock the rotation of the Y, because then they're just not going to be able to move. I could... Actually, I think I could. If I do that, then in here, I unlock it. I just realized I'm never unlocking the linear axis either. definitely unlock all of those. There you are, so Zed walking away from the pillar. You're walking forward now. You're walking forward now. Now you're walking backward. You're walking forward. You're walking backward. I don't know what you want from me. Maybe it was that. Maybe that was forcing it to change the y-axis rotation. Maybe. Actually, let's give that a try. So Z facing away. Okay, so you're walking forward and you keep walking forward. No, just going backwards. I'm not sure what triggers it to change the animation to walk backwards. That doesn't make sense to me. Because if it has the exact same x-axis value, the rotation should be identical. Yeah, so something's causing the rotation to flip out. Shrimp or chicken? Well, that depends on what goes with those two options. I mean, if you're gonna have some rice, or like some rice and carrot and whatnot, then shrimp. Make a fried rice. If you're gonna have mashed potato, stuff like that, than chicken. I mean, you can try shrimp with mashed potato, but I'm not too sure that would be good. What is bang bang shrimp? So, bang bang shrimp is deep fried shrimp, basically. I don't know. It says crispy, which tells me that there's some form of frying that's going on. I mean, it does look good. Yes, air fryers are amazing. I haven't used mine for about 3 months though. I should change that. Next week. Next week when I have the day off. Hydrate. Keep myself at least 70% water. So, I'm thinking down here I need to do something like, if the player is to the left in Ortho X, or if in any Ortho, then set the rotation to an exact value. Because clearly look at is causing this to go out of sync because we're using a nav agent. And I want to keep using the nav agent because I want to do things down the track where they like jump over objects when they can and stuff like that. So that would mean I would need a if current ortho axis is layer ortho axis Z, else pass. So I do something like that. Inside this, I would need to check if the player's Z is less than. If I can go like global rotation degrees Y equals that can equal 0 if the player global position Z is less than the enemy. Go position Z. Else 180. Oh, what am I doing? Enemy. It's just that. So I'm manually rotating them to ensure that the rotations are exact values. Now I don't need to worry about the approximate. Global rotation Y would be negative 90 if X is less than X, otherwise positive 90. Let's give that a try. See what happens. So we can go Z this time. I guarantee this isn't correct, but we'll see. So he's facing away. He's facing away. So greater than. Z again. That's looking pretty perfect right there. He's not doing that stupid thing where he changes between the back and forward walking animation either. I think we've got it, guys. I think we've got it. Now let's test out the X. X-axis, X-axis. Perfect. Okay, so he's walking backwards there. He's walking backwards there. So if I... Actually, I'm going to make these both less than. I'm going to swap the values over here. You're negative. You're 0. Just so that way the comparisons are the exact same and the same things are happening for the if and the else. Come on. So the X, you need to be negative, you need to be positive. That's how I had it before. X again. And so he's walking forward. He's walking forward! Yeah! That is amazing. He stops. Now keep moving out of the... Keep moving out. And now we change back into 3D. He's back over there. Now I still need to fix... I think I still need to fix up animations for 3D. Because he's still got that kind of thing going on. But 2D animations are working. Just wondering. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. Put that there. Wonder if that'll fix the... Let's double check that Z is still... I haven't broken Z animations, have I? Excellent, he moves forward. Moves forward. This is good. This is progress. I like progress. Now game to stop there. Move far enough back so he's not going to automatically detect me. Go back into perspective. Let's check his 3D. That's a forward walking. Now it's sideways. It's backwards. Now it's forwards. Now it's sideways. Now it's backwards. Okay, so 3D is obviously going to be more complicated than just 2D. So, for the 3D side of things, we have the normalized velocity. We know so we know how fast they're moving on the X and the Z. We just need to figure out if they're moving. I guess I could just have it take the absolute value of the X and the Z, and then just never have the enemies walking backwards like the player can. Just only have them walk forwards, and if they're gonna go the other direction, then they turn around and run the other direction. I could do something like that. But because this is a survival type thing, where it's just constant waves of enemies, I don't think I ever need them to retreat, do I? I kind of want them to always be putting pressure on the player. You don't want one enemy hiding behind an object so the player can't find them, and then the player just spends like 10 minutes trying to find them on that one wave. So wonder if I can just get the absolute of that. Don't worry about that. But if I'm further to the side, I want them looking at the next path position. Still doesn't help if they're traveling along the... It still doesn't help if they're traveling forward on the x-axis. That'll still play the walk left animation, if you get what I mean. Problems. This is one of the biggest first world problems in the world. But it's a problem that I have nonetheless. because it all works fine for the 2D perspectives. I do need to fix that up a bit. Alright, I'm going to mull that over in the back of my mind while I correct these. So it's because I'm handling it inside input. Input does not sync up with the physics process. So what I'll do, I'll take that out. We'll leave this in input, so if it's toggle run, it only runs in input. And then in physics process, we'll go if not toggle run, and input is action, oops, and is action just pressed run. We go, actually no, if not toggle run and action is pressed, or is action pressed. Oh, actually. If not toggle run, like that. If not toggle crouch, inputs is action pressed crouch. No, what am I doing? That's just went a little bit insane for a second there. And there. Okay. We shouldn't have that issue where the running animation keeps flipping. Z. Look at that. So smooth. Even running backwards. Lovely. Lovely. Actually, there's some stuff here that I want to figure out. Like, can I can run just the current scene with F6. So instead of F5, I can run F6. All right. I like that. I'll be doing that from now on, because I usually just hit F5. But if I want to have like menu set up and stuff, then I can just skip the start menu and whatnot. Something I will do. That's right. We got half an hour to an hour until I have lunch. And then after lunch, I'll probably switch over to Faz and start playing that new content with people. What do you think we should start working on now? Should we start working on a UI, like a pause menu, or should we work on a start menu and a start scene and stuff like that? Or should we start fleshing out the spawning of enemies? A bit more? Because at the moment, world level does not know if we are in perspective mode or not. So it could spawn an enemy in a random location that is not within our... Okay, spawning it is. So what we'll do here, we'll set up a is perspective boolean, which defaults to true, because why not? And a player author axis, which will be a player author axis value. And that can default to player author axis. Then I'd need to... One thing I've never learned with Godot is setting up global variables and stuff like that. So like this author axis enum, I should probably have that as a global rather than just accessing the player class whenever I want to use it. So down here I can go... I'll change these. I'll go like such. Actually, I can get rid of that. Is perspective. Is perspective. I could probably set up global variables of whether we're in perspective or not and such. I'll do that. I think I might work on that tomorrow. Setting up those global values so that I set it once in the player and I just reference those values. So I was a contract front-end developer for the last 3-ish years. I did a few different projects when I was doing that job. Started working there on a 6-month project doing like a front-end security uplift thing. Basically assessing their cookies, making sure that they were secure when they should be, that they were HTTP only when they should be, all that kind of stuff. As well as reviewing their authentication flow for sign-in, forgot password, and all that kind of stuff. After that project, I started working on migrating them to a new merchandising studio. And then after that, it was basically breaking down their monolithic website repository and making it so that it was smaller individual applications that were run as a part of a micro front-end shell. So you'd have the host app, which would have the header and the footer, which would have all your navigation elements. And then in between that, it would render the application that, like, for that page type. Made it, and that basically made it so we went from, when I started there, it was like a 2-week release cycle. There was no jQuery. God, no. There was a lot of JavaScript in the mono repo. And when we migrated started migrating everything over to the module federation side of things, it was like, we were like, all right, everything's TypeScript. Like, we're not doing JavaScript. We want to type everything, because that way we know what values we're working with. Yeah, just kind of went from there. That would, so is perspective. I don't think I need to do anything in his perspective. I think all I need to do is, if it's orthogonal Z, go player author axis is player author axis Z. Otherwise, the player author axis is X. So there were changes in the upper management, and decision making slowed down. Things started to become a little bit odd. So, like they had let go of a lot of contractors already, and there was a lot of umming and ahhing about, if I would be staying on or not. It got to a point where it looked like I would probably be able to continue the contract if I wanted to, but by that time it was just kind of like, nah, I'll go and learn a bunch of other stuff. Like, I'll learn some game dev, I'll learn some Zig, maybe learn some other front end languages, maybe some Golang, maybe some Rust and whatnot. And when I go back into the workforce, I might go back there. We'll see how the company goes. If I go back into the workforce. If streaming works out for me and I end up making money off this, then I may as well just stay doing this, right? Like, so this game is just the first thing I'm going to be doing. Once I finish this off, I'll put it to you guys to decide what I do next, whether I do another game, whether I add stuff to this game, or whether we go to a completely different project in a completely different programming language. I'll leave that up to you guys. So I'm good as long as I'm programming or creating stuff, basically. That's why I went contracting in programming, because I didn't want to sit in meetings and do people management and all that kind of stuff. It's like, no, just give me the programming. That's what I want. So I think that will help out with the spawning. So I think I can go... I can also go player axis value. That'll be a float. That'll start out as that. So when I go into this, I can essentially go player axis value equals get node player, which the player is spawned in by code down here. So we know that when this happens, like, this is triggered by a player signal. So global position Z. Otherwise, it's global position X. That axis value, we can go down here, we can go what? If, wait, instead of this, player author Z, I'm just going to set that as a bool, and I'm going to default that to true. You can go away, and I can set this here. Player author Z is author Z. And down here I go if not is perspective and player author Z, and go the spawn point X x equals player axis value. Yeah. That's what I want to do, because the axis value is the one that we're locked on. Which, if we're in Z, we can move along the Z, but the X axis is locked. So we want to get the X value there and the Z value there. Else, if we're not perspective mode and not player ortho Z, spawn point Z becomes the player axis value. I can probably clean that up a bit as well by just going just nest it like this. Else spawn point Z is player axis value. So that way it should spawn them on the Z value. So let's give that a try. If I do it now, I go here. It should eventually, yeah, there we go. Spawns right there on the Z axis. But now he's walking backwards there, he's walking forwards there, he's walking backwards there. Now I've got to figure all that out again. Oh, I know why. He's not spawned in on the correct nav region, is he? Well, actually, no. Oh, this will be interesting. I have a decision to make here before we get too much further. Currently for the enemy, when we transition into the ortho perspective, I'm locking their X and Z axis. So that way, if they're on this nav map, this like 3D nav map here, it will, like, they will move, but they will ignore a position that puts them out here. They'll just go, no, I'll go as far forward as I can this way, but I'm not moving outside of this axis. But now, if I spawn them in here, I haven't locked that axis. So I could put logic in here for when I spawn the enemy, I lock their axis based on this. But I think a better way would be to set their, would be to set their nav agent, their navigation layer. I think I should set their navigation layer to be one of those. So that's actually going to be easier than I thought. So if I go down here like that, I can set the spawn point for the ortho Z, and I can go enemy nav agent navigation layers equals 2, because that's the Z. Otherwise 3, because that's the X. And I think that's what I'm doing up here as well. I've got these layers here. So I think I want to do a set navigation layers. Set navigation layer value 2 to true. Set navigation layer 1 to false. And set navigation layer 3 to true. So I do that for the initial spawn, and then inside this hand player changing the camera, it'll take care of setting all that stuff back up and like changing the values as we want it to. I've just realized I have that floor turned off still. If I go here, where's our enemy spawn? There he is. Okay, so you're still walking towards me, which is good, but you shouldn't try to make your way around that. Yeah, cool. So I'm now outside, like he's unable to reach me. So he just stops. Cool. I need to figure out what's going on with that animation now. Because that seems to have broken itself. Oh, I also need to set their rotation. That's probably why. So down here, could probably go. So I need to set their rotation. They're defaulted to something. For now, I'll set the enemy global rotation Y. I'll default it to 0 there. And I'll default it to -90 here. I have no idea where the enemy spawned, but we'll find them at some point. Still a backwards animation there. It's a forward animation. So it's a backwards animation on the Z. I wonder what it's doing. Oh, whoops. Let's get this floor turned back on. I wonder what it's doing for the X-axis. Right, so the X-axis is playing a very weird one. Let me double check here. So if ortho axis is Z, we're checking if the degrees is 0 or 180. Otherwise we're checking if it's not Z. We're checking if it's -90 or 90. By ortho, default to 0, 0. Default to -90. How strange. You're not facing the right way at all. Going to Z. See if he spawns in facing the right way or not. This is technically not down this way. It's got to be back this way. There you are, so he's facing that way, so he's walking forwards. He's walking backwards, so that's something I can fix there. Now if we go to X, he spawned to my left again, didn't he? He's still facing that way. That has me a little bit confused now. That's getting very loud now. World position, spawn point. Setting the rotation degrees. Also want to lock. I think the last thing I need to do is lock the angular Y. Still don't know why X is making a face. Wrong direction. I'm going to go left and it's going to spawn to my right. There we go. See, look at that. Okay, so no, I want to print global rotation degrees. $90 degrees. So it's something up in here then. Oh! Oh, of course. I need to set the enemy current ortho axis equal to the player ortho axis set. Again, this will all be a lot easier once I have global values set up, like global variables for this stuff to manage. So that way I just set it on the player. Like when I do something on the player, I set those values and then I just reference them in these other places. That'll save a lot of this kind of headache moving forward. But for now, let's see. So the problem wasn't his rotation, it was the animation value that was being passed into the blend positions. Current ortho axis is set. His perspective also needs to be set, I think.